Yay, everybody can hear me. Just doing super smooth audio transition because you'll be able to hear our guests too. Yay, that's done. And now I'm just gonna turn off the waiting music. Yay, extra yay. Okay, now we are live. Hello and welcome to episode, I think it's 14 of Laughing Into the Void. I'm your host, Tom, and co-hosting with me as always is the lovely Rosalind Paris.
Hi.
You can watch our previous broadcasts on the District Comedy YouTube, Facebook channels, and or listen to them on most podcast platforms. If you enjoy the stream, please consider making a donation of any size at district-comedy.live. And if you want to keep up with us on social media, check out the link in the description. It has links to all of our different social media platforms. And I'll also say before we get started, I'm really excited if you want to make a unique type of donation, because that's basically what it would be. We have merch now, yay! So you can get your own District Comedy notebook. There's some t-shirts, some other, there's a face mask, you know, if you want that kind of stuff. Neither here nor there. Let's give it up for our awesome guest today. We have Rabiah Coon, woo!
Hello.
Did I pronounce your name right?
It's Rabiah, but that's okay.
Yeah. Rabiah, awesome. So Rabiah is a London-based comic with a day job in IT. In 2014, she set a goal to do stand-up once before she turned 40 and re-up on her original dream of becoming a writer. 5 years later, with little time left, she made her debut and hasn't stopped performing. Often seen in San Diego on shows or at open mics, she has also performed at open mics in Portland, Austin, and Oakland. Rabiah's passion for storytelling mixed with a dry delivery and a self-deprecation make her relatable. I said your name wrong again after I just asked you. Make her relatable and entertaining to many different audiences. You can find out more about her by following on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Rabiah Comedy and at More Than Work Pod. Thank you so much for being with us today. That is the end of the spiel I forewarned you about. So how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
Good. Yeah, doing well. I'm in, like you said, in London, and it's late at night here, or early morning, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks.
Yay!
Good. Just had a cat fight just like 2 seconds before we went live. So that's cool. That seems to have sorted itself out. So
let nature take its course. Yeah. I'm also doing well. I actually found out they called it really like insanely early at like 3:30 p.m. today ish. That we're closed tomorrow for snow. It has not started snowing yet. I'm not 100% confident it will snow. But no takebacks. So no takebacksies is I guess how it works. But yeah. Why don't we get started jumping in? So our first official question, other than how are you, we ask every guest we have on the show, and that is, how would you describe your sense of humor to someone who has never seen you perform?
I would say, yeah, it's just mostly dry and a little bit sarcastic, and maybe a little bit requires a little bit of thought. Not that I can speak very well now, but I think sometimes you don't catch it right away, and then you laugh later, and that's not good when you're on stage, but that can happen. Yeah, I'd say dry, and I'm just kind of just more like of a storyteller type of comic, and situational, observational, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there a particular type of content you go for? I would ask if you wanted to give us a little sample from your material, but since it's in the storytelling style, I won't make you go into a 3-minute monologue or whatever.
No, yeah, I mean, well, so it's a little, like I say in the bio, I mean, it's a little self-deprecating, so I'll often make an observation about myself, about how clumsy I am, or about my name, which we talked a little bit about, but my name's a little bit different, and so I have a brief one about that. But yeah, there's different things like that, or online dating, or medical stuff. I mean, just things that kind of I find funny, but I relate to somehow. So I make it a little bit about centered around me rather than, um, or like my family a little bit. Like my mom now just kind of goes, "Well, I know you're gonna say something about that, you know," and she's a good sport about it. So
Aw.
Which is good. I find, at least for myself personally, because I know that comedy is subjective, but I tend to be drawn more towards the comedians who are. It is more of a storytelling style, and maybe that's because of my background in theater that that's what I like. But also, I just feel like there tends to be an easier time with making that like genuine connection with the audience when you're like doing stuff that's personal to you rather than, not that there's anything wrong with it, but like I know there's a lot of comedians who will always go for like what's happening in the news, which is another style, and I appreciate it. It's just not my favorite. I love. Tell me about your family drama. I want to hear it.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, I think it's fun and it is relatable. So yeah.
When you're writing, like what's your writing process like? Have you identified a story and then you add the jokes in, or do you think about like jokes and then something just kind of fits in there?
Yeah, like it'll vary. I mean, because you know, I've been doing it about 2 years now, and I've written a lot. I mean, and I've got a few type fives, and I've done 20 minutes and stuff, and that were okay. And I guess it depends. Like sometimes I'll just be talking to someone, and I'll say something, and go, oh, that actually, let me write that down, because that's like really how I feel about it. Like the other day, I just said, you know, who supports support animals? Like, you know, so I don't have anywhere to go with it yet, right? Because I need to do something. I can't just stand up there and say that. But yeah, and then I'll just start to think about like the types of support animals and why I don't have a pet and stuff like that, and I'll just kind of keep building it around it. Yeah, and so I'll usually, it's almost like I know people say when they write songs, like they'll have like maybe they'll think of something like a line and then they'll build around it. I kind of tend to do that a little bit, or I'll have something like that bothers me and I'll just start writing about it. You
Yeah.
know, and then just see what happens. But I haven't honed it exactly, but I'll just keep trying to make stories that lead to that punchline.
And that's
Yeah, I
interesting
kind of.
too. Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, we're talking over each other again. Damn it. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it feels like that's another one of those things where I feel like it's a bit of a spectrum of the people in comedy and how they'll come at it and where they kind of need to hone in when it comes to writing their actual set is either starting with a premise, like you kind of uh, referred to, and then building upon it and crafting the joke around that, um,
Mhm.
versus others who will just have like a ton of stuff and then their challenge is like the economy of words and like, okay, how can I get rid of the fluff around it, sort of thing.
Mhm.
So it's nice to know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard because you start with this big thing and go back down, and I'm verbose a little bit, so I've learned to actually get to the point, even with work emails and stuff now. Like, all right, what am I trying to say and get it down? But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way too. Like my when I'm writing, my style is very like storytelling too, mostly because that helps me remember my jokes because I have a hard time
Yeah.
with that. Um, but like recently I wrote a set, and it was kind of a challenge because it was like a political fundraiser, so I had to be
Mm.
very very careful, and it had to be PG-13. And I was like, well, what is a PG-13 story I have that is objectively funny that I can also add with self-deprecating jokes about myself? And I had just seen somebody's non-service dog take a poop in a Home Goods during Christmas season, and I was like,
Oh,
that is comedy gold, you know?
yeah.
And then I had like little like things I jotted down, like I don't know, in the middle of the night, like after a few drinks, would be like, I think this about this, you know, and like sometimes I like kind of just work that stuff in, and it's
Hmm.
like a good. I don't know. I like storytelling. I feel like it creates a good framework for your jokes.
Do you guys like come back? Like, I'll sometimes have something in a notebook, and 6 months later, I'll see it and be like, oh, now I'm ready to deal with that. like I didn't know what to do with it. Do you ever do that? I don't know.
Yeah, a
Um,
little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And not to throw us completely off track, but you did mention before we started streaming that you might have a friend watching. Any chance their
Yeah.
name is Rob?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
great.
that's
Um.
who does.
So I'm
So
still trying
Rob's the
to.
one who designed my background too. He's
Oh,
amazing.
that's actually,
Aw.
yeah, that's a killer background. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
he just wanted to say you are the next Tony Shalhoub. So there you
Oh, we
go.
gotta hop on this the reboot train.
So
Put
I
it on
am.
CD.
I'm also
Howdy.
still navigating like when to incorporate the chat as it comes up. But thank you, Rob. Please continue to comment as you like. I'll try and incorporate it as I can.
Oh
Um,
my god. Okay. Yeah.
he
Fine.
says hi. Great. Moving on. Uh, Next, kind of going more into like the storytelling stuff. Um, how do you kind of differentiate between what is considered traditionally stand up,
Mhm.
as I guess is known by the majority of the population, versus comedic storytelling? And
Mhm.
where do you think your humor lies on that spectrum, if you had to pick if it leaned more one way or the other?
Well, I think part of it's just, I guess for me, if I thought about how I put a set together in a way, and just that there's always a through line. So I won't talk about something for 7 minutes, for example. I'll talk about it for like three, and it'll lead to something else, and something else would have gotten me there. And so, um, I mean, I think if I think about how it's written, there's always a structure of like a setup and a punchline, and then maybe tags. And if I would look at myself telling a full story, it wouldn't be that setup, right? It'd have more like of a, you know, something happening in the middle. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen that book, Save the Cat, but the idea is that you always have to have like save the cat. You always have to have something to save, or some thing, some high point in the story that, the point of the story. And so I guess I would say that, though I think it's a narrative style of joke, because it's telling a story, it's not a story in the sense of like having multiple character, or you could only have one character, but just in the sense of like, it's not, I'm not becoming a hero, or there's no redemption, there's no like actual storyline. It's just like, I'm clumsy, this illustrates these three jokes, and like illustrate that I'm clumsy or something. Or, my name is like, you got, my name's crazy, and then there's a little story about it and a punchline, and it's just kind of like, I think it's just maybe just how it's set up, where I don't think in a comedy story like the end would be a punchline necessarily. You just have different funny things throughout it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I would see it.
No,
Yeah.
I think I see that. I think like it's. You're right. We do
No,
keep
we do
talking
that
over
to
each
each
other.
other all the time. We're the worst about it.
It's
It's a
because we're so
delay too.
synced
It's
up. But
hard.
last time you let me go first, so this time it's yours, Roz.
Oh, I'm just gonna say it's kind of like a stream of thoughts that's like connected together. It's like we talk about no redemption, like we're comedians, we're never gonna be redeemed people. Like we'll just get that one out of the way. There is no Johnny Cash turnaround story for these three people on screen right now. But no, it's kind of like I don't know. I feel like a story doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, A to B. Like you can skip around with jokes about yourself or jokes about something, and it still kind of lines up together. It's like Quentin Tarantino style, although I'm sure
Mhm.
he ripped that off from somebody else. You start in the middle, and you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm just babbling. Tom, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I hear what you're saying. And even like the comedians who I feel like are the epitome of like stand up humor, and even comedians who have become really successful who identify themselves as like the like one liner comedians. Like when I think of that, at least in recent memory, I think of comedians like Anthony Jeselnik, and even in that
Mhm.
context, his they're one liners, but they still aim, at least to me, to have that kind of like thread that ties it all together. And I think especially when you start getting into like longer sets, that sort of thing's really important. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, it's just like it depends on. I mean, I don't see much of a difference. I mean, in a way, to be honest, I think it's just styles. So if your style is to tell one story that's super funny, I mean, I think the danger is the person who only has that one story,
Yeah.
and then that's all they have, and it's not like, and then that's it. And the same with the one-liner person. Like if they only have like five or however many that fills that time, and they don't have anything else to say. I mean, at some point, it catches you, right? So but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't even see. I think there's room for all the styles, and because people prefer different things. Some people aren't going to want to listen. You know, I have a story about choking on brisket. It's just ridiculous, and it's almost all true. Is the problem with that one? It was like just so stupid. But it takes like a couple minutes, and it has some physical comedy in it, and it's fine. But I would say it's a story, but I use it as a bit. So I don't know if there's much for me. I don't know if it mattered. I just think there's room for different stuff, and people who don't think that, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like open your mind a little bit. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although
We
that
talked about. You didn't get
third
to.
time's the charm.
It's your turn now.
I should call on you guys.
I know, right? Oh, me. No, I was just gonna say that it kind of relates to again talking a little bit before we started the stream. I think it was on Displaced Comedians recently. There was another like hot topic post that was basically around the Netflix comedy special Nanette, and main criticism being like it was billed as stand up when it's storytelling. And any thoughts as far as, I think the main thing with that one, rather than it just being about stand up versus storytelling, was also the idea that basically there's no room in a comedic act for emotions other than like ones that would incite laughter. Like there's no space to kind of take a serious take on a topic.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, I have to rewatch Nanette and I have to rewatch Douglas, right? Because they were so powerful and there was so much in them, and I think Hannah Gadsby is just defining. She's in her own lane, really. And I think there was some, well, even if you think about the recent election and Kamala Harris saying she's the first but she's not the last, right? And so she's going to define it, and not to make it political, but just that statement. And so I think too with Hannah Gadsby, I think it's going to take time for her to be totally appreciated for what she did in the net, and I think there is room for it. I mean, one thing I want to do with my comedy is use it to help people. Just with I have MS, and that's an illness, and it's like a part of my life, and so I don't talk. I have just started now, like writing material about that. Had it for 20 years. It's a big thing for me in a way, but that it's not. Most of my life is not centered around it. But I'm gonna want. She gave me room to do that in a way, right? So and that Displaced Comedians, man, I know it was started out of a good place, but there's been some stuff in there that it's on Facebook. It's anywhere on Facebook. People can just say these things that are to incite conversation that they probably know. They can think of their intention. I don't know who wrote that post, but their intention was probably not to have like a positive discussion. I mean, more than likely. And so I think there's room for it. I think it'd be hard for Hannah Gadsby to go and do a 3 minutes and do something with it. I mean, that'd be a really tough thing. Like she'd have to make a choice.
Yeah.
On am I gonna do the 3 minutes that's really heavy that made people cry, or am I gonna do the 3 minutes that made people? I mean, that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're doing your own show, yeah, you can do that. And I think there's so much about mental health. Like so much of comedy involves people who have mental health issues, or there's mental health awareness, and it's so important. And so yeah, I don't know, I think there's room, and I think it's great if people start to do stuff and not use it as a gimmick. I mean, I see some comics, I think, use things as a gimmick, like, and I'm like, all right, well, that's a real serious issue, so I hope you know what you're doing with that. So yeah, I don't know, I got a little emotional about that, I guess, but that I really, I don't like when I don't like that idea that there's not room for other emotions besides laughter and comedy. Marin gets really angry. It's not always funny. Sometimes, I mean, the guy is seriously upset about things sometimes, but I love what he does, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a guy, so he's not going to get the same, honestly. I mean,
Yeah, the
honestly,
same feedback.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
not, right? But yeah, so.
No, I don't mind you getting emotional at all. Get as emotional as you want while we're talking about stuff, but no, I hear that. I feel like also there's a little bit of like apprehension people have sometimes just when they see something and they're not sure what to do with
Mhm.
it. So maybe, like it seems like has happened, is that she's inspired you a little bit, at least in writing about some things you wouldn't have written about otherwise with your material.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe that will inspire like more specials like this to come out, and then we'll make the decision, which I overall think is pretty arbitrary, as whether or not, like, are we allowed to call this stand up too, or do we call it its own thing? In either case, I think that, you know, it is cool in this digital age, that, like, there really is room for everybody's,
Mhm.
like, preferred content.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm glad that you also mentioned a little something about, like, was this post to incite constructive conversation or something else?
Yeah. I mean, I ask myself that a lot, and I'll try not to respond, and I don't do a very good job. And my friend who's watching knows that, because we both not don't like hold back from responding to things sometimes. But yeah, some of the posts I'm just like, you're trying to get someone like me upset, and I have to move on,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Cool. Awesome. What about you, Roz? What's your hot take on Nanette?
I actually haven't seen it.
Oh, well, damn. Moving on.
Wow, so she's so opposed to it, didn't even watch it. That's like, yeah, good.
It
I mean,
sounds interesting, and maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, I will say that, like, I felt Douglas was more in the realm of, like, what people are used to as far
mhm.
as, like, stand-up comedy. But Nanette, I was just, like, blown away. That was it. It really was. And I think, I don't know, maybe there was also a little bit of a factor of, like, it was kind of to her benefit that I was going in expecting normal stand up, and then
Yeah.
having that um, deep emotional element to her show was like really took me by surprise, and I was like, oh my god, now I'm on the edge of
Yeah.
my seat biting my fingers. Anyway,
Yeah, it was a
basically what I'm
lot.
saying, you are the next Annette, and we're just gonna go with that.
I think also with comedy too, it's like the context is so important too.
Mhm.
I mean, I think of times when like so Tom and I were in an improv troupe together for 8 years, and we did all sorts of like corporate gigs and you know bar gigs and private gigs and all that kind of stuff. And comedy, like when it's framed in a situation, like if I'm sitting down and I'm expecting something to be ha ha funny, I'm probably gonna be a little pissed if something
Yeah.
like makes me think harder than I want to in that place of time. And I just like with corporate shows, those were always very intimidating to go into because if it's like a work conference, no one is there to have fun. Like no one is prepared to have a good time. You don't go through 4 meetings with PowerPoints expecting to giggle, you know? And like by the time the entertainment comes on, you're just like, fuck this. I want to go to my hotel room and drink the mini bar and go to sleep early, you
Yeah.
know? And I think sometimes like doing that kind of edgier stuff or more innovative things that people aren't expecting sometimes I feel like there's maybe a little bit of a learning curve that the audience has to get over
Mm-hmm.
because they don't really know what to expect, or it's not quite the context that they were expecting.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know,
That's fair. Yeah.
yeah.
that's a great point. Um, that being said, we're gonna move on to something that I think is a little bit lighter, just because, again, in your bio, you mentioned you have done comedy like all over the place.
Yeah.
San Diego, Portland, Austin, and Oakland were the ones that we mentioned. But what do you find are the main differences in those comedy scenes? And I'm curious, um, also, A, do you have a favorite? It's going to be like, I also do this all the time, unfortunately, for guests, where I say, I'm going to ask you a question, and then it's going to be like 5 questions within
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
So grab your notebook, take some notes. No, just kidding.
If only you had a district comedy notebook to write things
Oh
down
my
in.
god, plug! Oh, I feel
I
so
wish I did. I
dirty.
have a pen, guys, but I don't
Oh,
have a notebook. You know where I can get one?
Oh
Tom, where can
no!
we get a notebook?
District-comedy.live will send you a $1 notebook for like $16, and it won't get to you for 3 weeks.
Wow, really
Amazing.
selling it there, Tom.
I'm sorry, I
That's
can't.
great.
I consider it like honestly, it's another way to donate. um, is how I think of it. Anyway, sorry, so off topic. But you've done comedy all over the place.
Hmm.
Which city's your favorite? And then also, because I read on the most recent post for your blog, that part of one of the huge accomplishments, it sounds like, that you had in 2020 was the move to London. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if in that transition, I feel like I'm so bogged down in what's going on in the US. I'm not even sure, like, are they doing comedy there right now? What's the scene there? And if there is a bit of a scene that you've been able to experience,
Sure.
how it compares to those cities in the US.
Sure. So yeah, so I mean, I started in San Diego at Comedy Palace was what I'd consider my home club there, and I did do the Comedy Store there once in La Jolla. So there's two comedy stores. Yeah, well, there's one here too and stuff, but the ones like when you think of Mitzi Shore or whatever, she had the one in La Jolla, and then there's the one in LA. So I did the La Jolla one. I got to do like 3 minutes, and I cried. I swept when I got outside because it's like, oh my gosh, I did this. And but so that was awesome. I mean, I loved being there, but I'd say just like Comedy Palace is where I was cutting my teeth the most. And then like yeah, I performed elsewhere just because I started to just when I knew I was going on a trip, my friends who I'd visit in the different cities would just be cool. Like either they would say, "Oh, we'd like to see you perform. Can you?" Or I'd say, "Is it cool if I got something?" And so like Portland was actually really cool. Um, there was this one night, Blue Velvet, I think it was, and it was just fun. I mean, it was pretty cool. I did a couple nights. Oh, I lost my voice though. That was really messed up. I lost my voice when I was there, and it was to the point where I did like I had to get spray. It was like a what would Adele do moment. I had to get like spray. I had it. Then the one lady at the bar, I said, "Oh, can I get tea?" She goes, "Here," and she gave me whiskey. Like, I threw something in there for you, And yeah, they were super nice there. So yeah, so I mean, it's just fun. What I noticed is just the people when they have you on when you're in a different city. It's a good time to just connect and be. They're being friendly because they said, yeah, come and do our show. And so sometimes in your home city, it's a little bit of a hustle and there's
Yeah.
clicks and whatever. You're not familiar with all that, so just assume everyone's nice and go in and have a good time and enjoy it. Differences. I mean, I think what I would try to do sometimes is be more regional. Like when I moved to London, I tried to change my jokes for England, and I tried to like change the language and stuff because I saw Ricky Gervais do a warm up show once in California, and by the time I saw the real show like that he had changed everything. So I thought I need to do that. And then what I found out was just being myself and doing my material, and then seeing what worked, and then changing it or adjusting it was better than adjusting it, assuming all this stuff about the people. So it was better just to be me, and it took me a little while to a month. I mean, because I moved here in January and by March we were locked down, so I didn't have much
Yeah.
time. But I met a few cool people here already, and that just were really nice, and they still did online shows. And so we're not doing anything now. We're in lockdown. We've been since, well, quite a while now, since before the holidays. And they iteratively got like, we went from being kind of open and having some live stuff to just like shut down, and that's where we've been. So we're hearing like rumors are of May or something like that. But so I've just been doing online shows. So most of the people I've met in Europe or the UK are online. But there's some really nice people, but there's still those like things everywhere that whatever annoys you in a local scene probably would annoy you if you move to another local scene. And you
Right.
just rise above it and find your people, you know?
Yeah.
I
Like
don't know
I
if you guys
imagine
are
the
the same
clicks
thing.
are probably everywhere to some
Yeah,
degree.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's just kind of human nature, I think.
Hmm.
My friends, nobody else.
So I've been rewatching Fleabag recently, and I've
Oh,
decided I've decided that knickers is like the best word for underwear. Like it just sounds like what it is in a non-creepy capacity. So
yeah.
like are there any other words like living in England that you've picked up on where you're like, I wish we could just replace that in America? Because if I go up to somebody and be like, can you point me to the knickers section? They'll be like, what now?
Dude,
They'll be like, the what part of the store? And I'll be like, knickers. And they're like, what is
yeah.
that? So it's not gonna happen for us. But like,
No, I mean, so, and I said this, I think, on my podcast, but like pants, right? So they call underwear pants over here. And I literally, this was before I moved here, but I went into a store. It was like Marks and Spencer or something. Or John Lewis, I think it was, some store, some like, department store. And I said, oh, I need some gray pants. And the lady looked at me like, why are you wearing gray? Like, why do you want gray underwear? I thought I was talking about like, and so I was just like, I don't, and it was just so awkward. And then it was trousers. So I would
Mm.
not, I just think like, I like to just, knickers is good. I don't, yeah, because I don't like the word panties. I don't know. It doesn't,
that's
not my
immediately I think
vibe.
it's pervert. Like
Yeah.
done.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's not my vibe just to even say that. So I just say underwear. And knickers would be fine, but otherwise, like I like how they call the elevator the lift. Like
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
cool. I live in a flat. I'm fine with. I think that's. I don't mind that versus apartment. I don't know why it's called that. Someone asked me recently. I didn't. I didn't. I mean, I didn't do what they should have done, which was just look it up instead of asking me. You know. You know what I mean?
Make something up.
Um, but yeah, they. One thing that makes me laugh is like, if they're super tired, they say they're shattered, and I'm like, you guys are so
Mm.
drama about being tired, but you won't talk about your emotions otherwise, right? Well, I'm
Well,
shattered. I'm like, why? What's wrong? And that just means they're tired.
yeah.
Like,
Or like when they're disappointed, they're like, I'm gutted. It's like,
yeah,
come
they're
on,
gutted.
calm down now. We missed the movie.
It makes me
Yeah,
think
like
of that
maybe.
that TikTok where it's like a pane of glass falls on the floor and it's still together and then they drop like I think it's like a screwdriver or something on it and then it shatters into a million pieces. Like, yep, that's me shattered. I like that too.
Yeah. Oh, right now, what's a relevant one is instead of like a COVID shot or vaccine, they say the jab. Get the
Ooh,
jab.
Ooh,
good.
that's so much more fun.
That's like kind
Yeah.
of edgy and young and sexy. Like,
Yeah.
do you want
Yeah.
the jab? Like, I feel like maybe we would reach more of an audience of stupid people if we like rebranded it to the
Yeah.
jab in the United States. Like they'd be like, "Ooh, that sounds hip. I'm gonna stop now."
No, that's fine. I was just thinking they're gonna start like an open mic premature of everything officially opening called like the Jab Gab, where it's only comedians who have been vaccinated get to perform or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Um,
Show your COVID card. But yeah,
yeah,
so the jab I like. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
nice. And also I'm gonna at least not to try and get you canceled, but go with probably San Diego for your favorite locale so far, just because that was
Hmm.
probably your home base. That's
Yeah.
a fair answer.
Yeah.
Although I've heard great things about Portland too from other people, so
Yeah.
seems like
It's a
one
great
day I
city.
need to like take time and like I got a tour. So after Toronto, I need to figure out what my plan's gonna be.
Yeah.
We gotta go to Toronto and bring Desiree some more
She
Uncrustables.
got some. It's gonna be a
Oh yeah,
minute
those
before she
ladies
gets
seem
more. It was hard shipping those. I'm not gonna lie. She's lucky that
those,
they got there at all.
those ladies seem cool up there. Like I see them on. I'm friends with Kelly.
Kelly's awesome. She was on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard her episode, and she seems. I mean, we're friends on Facebook. But she seems really cool. But yeah, they seem like a very nice scene up in Toronto. That I don't know. They
Which
just
is
seem like
weird
good
because
people.
every time they talk about Toronto, they talk about how, like, at least relative to Canadian standards, Toronto's, like, meaner. But, like, Canadian mean is still really nice
Yeah,
compared to America. But,
like to say.
but yeah. So yeah, love those people. Glad we established that. It needs to be said at least once an episode. But no, it was like really hard shipping that stuff to her. It was just like I had an email from customs that was like I didn't put an invoice in. It was like a whole lot of paperwork. So like no wonder they thawed by the time they got to her. But I want to go back to kind of I alluded to it in a previous question. But the blog you posted on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that was a long. I realized what blog you were talking about because I hadn't written since then, I guess. But yeah.
Well, I'm gonna do another lovely weird thing that I do to guests, which is I'm gonna read your own words back to you as part of the asking the question. But in that post you wrote, January 2021 will be the beginning of change. I'm confident that if people can seek to understand and consider others when they act, 2021 will be the start of something better. I know it's only been about a month, but at least from your view overseas,
Hmm.
knowing that change can sometimes be slower than we would like, have you started to see that change that you allude to, some of that hope? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
Well, I mean, over here it's hard because I really like just go to the store and maybe go on my bike if it's not cold, right? And so, but I think yeah, I mean, I'll say personally I've made an effort to change my reaction time to things. Like maybe I would be pretty much like lose my temper in a way, like just write stuff and not have regard for it. Like respond. Well, I got in trouble on Facebook. I got in jail for like 3 days. Sucks. I could even like promote my podcast, and I even tried to have my buddy be the admin for my page, thinking maybe we could get around it, but he couldn't become the admin while I was in jail.
Mm.
So that could be one thing. Like but I think yeah, there's some. I mean, I think yeah, I think that for me honestly, every day it was something with Trump, and I was fatigued and I couldn't take it. I mean, it was really wearing me out. So I think just the fact that I'm not constantly like upset is a difference, and I think a lot of people feel that. Now I know there's other people now who are upset, and so I think that's unfortunate. I think that nothing's going to be perfect, but I think that we're on the right track. And then I feel like with the vaccine getting distributed more, stuff like that. But 2021 hasn't been much different. It wasn't like an instant change. I also started school this year, like 3 weeks ago, and I'm taking a class on moral leadership. And so it's really made me rethink myself and how I communicate and what my values are and how I act. And it's been kind of phenomenal just over 3 weeks. But I think too, yeah, I'm seeing change just from there. So maybe it's just within me. I was probably too grandiose thinking other people would change. I know I feel like I'm starting to change, which is
Mm-hmm.
I guess where it starts. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, the short answer would be like probably not.
Well, I mean, you're honest. And I think you even mentioned that in the post or one of them too. It's like I'm gonna be realistic. But I
I had a
kind
day
of
where I refreshed the news and nothing new had happened in like 3 hours, and it was the most peaceful feeling.
your cat's too much for me right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm worried he's gonna attack me in a second.
For the
We'll
people
see.
listening on the podcast, it was just a lot of cat butt for a second, and now it's
Yeah, it
cute
was.
cat face. But I kind of want to go back to the moral leadership class that you're taking because I'm really interested about not necessarily the content of that. I think I'm assuming the title's
Hmm.
a little self-explanatory, but
Yeah.
it seems like have there been any takeaways maybe from that class you think apply to comedy?
Yeah, probably. I mean, so yeah, because it's at I started this it's a public leadership credential at Harvard Kennedy. It's like this grad certificate they do, and then they want people to go to the grad school, but that's a whole other financial thing that I won't be doing. But yeah, I mean,
So
I
it's
think
not worth it.
yeah. Well, it's too it's crazy. But anyway, like I think like we just this last week did this whole thing, this exercise on looking at what are our values, like as a person, like your own values. And I feel like if people, there's this whole conversation happening that's been happening around, oh, I don't want to get canceled. Oh, I can't say like, and I would disagree with this. I'm being like that way about it, but like, oh, you can't say anything anymore. If I say anything, it's like you can say something, but it has to be funny. And like, if you're gonna tell a rape joke, for example, and a woman is in the audience who was assaulted before, doesn't laugh, it's not on her, you know.
Yeah.
At that point, it's on you. Or if you say something racist, whatever, and people don't laugh. So I think if people became aware of what their values were and they were truly living them, including in what they say and how they communicate. And I am careful about what I say actually in my comedy because I do think it's a reflection of me ultimately. I think then yeah, there'd be some people might talk about different things and people might find they're actually funny, but they're still able to kind of express these things that are important to them. And same with reacting. I mean, one thing the classes taught me is just that if you're gonna create change, you need to step back and listen and learn the environment and learn the culture and learn all that, and then go in and try to see what can change or what you can change. And I think a lot of times with the cancel culture, I think that happens too, and I think that's such a buzzword now. But also, people just react to something without getting the story, and I think some people experience like blowback that maybe if people just were listening to them truly and looking at them and their situation and their culture and their background, maybe they wouldn't react that way too. Um, Not to make excuses for some people, but I don't know who I'm talking about, but there's probably someone who didn't say something with the intention of the reaction it got, right? And then maybe we can listen to that person too and say, okay, we understand, or you did grow up in this way, or have this thing happen to you, and that's why you said it. I don't know. I'd say that's the things I've taken out of the class. Now I don't always act that way. I mean, I'm a bit of a hothead
Right. Nobody's
sometimes. So
perfect.
you know.
But no, that's great. I love talking to you. Yeah, sorry, Roz, you looked like you were gonna say something.
No, I was just thinking, a lot of people complaining about like cancel culture, like not being able to say stuff, but it's kind of like more how you react to being called out. Like,
Mm.
Hmm.
I think it was Cardi B.
To quote Carter B.
I think it was Cardi B, but she used a racist term for her baby's eyes in one like Twitter post
Mm.
that's like a slang for somebody with slanted eyes,
Mm.
basically. It's like super offensive, and people called her out for it. And her response to that particular controversy was, "Oh my God, I didn't know that. I grew up with people saying that. I didn't
Mm.
realize that was a bad thing to say. I'm not going to say it again." You know,
Yeah.
Which
and
is
that's like,
actually a pretty, like, if you're going to handle backlash, to kind of accept that you made a mistake and learn
Mm-hmm.
from it is, I imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, but according to class, that's kind of how you would want to respond to that.
I would think so. I mean, I think, well, one of my values is accountability. That's what I've identified for myself. And so, yeah, I mean, I think if you're accountable, like, and then it's up to the people, then people have to handle the forgiveness themselves. I mean, you can't make someone forgive you and you can't change how they feel or whatever. I mean, if I forgive someone, it's up to me and how I feel about them. And same with me. If I mess up and I say something, then if someone chooses not to forgive me, I can't live with the burden of their, whatever feelings towards me. I have to continue. And so, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's how you should handle it. Like, and she was probably sincere. Like, she probably grew up where she grew up in New York, and I think anyway, right, and stuff. I mean, I don't know. you know, that's what she thought was okay to say, and it wasn't. And yeah.
There's definitely a lot of people that say that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So I could definitely see that being like just something you grew up with, like thinking was normal, and then like as an adult you stop and you're like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
oh, that was bad, you know. I actually
Yeah.
had a moment like that. So um I was reacting to something someone posted on Facebook of like a Bigfoot wearing heels, and it just said, "Yes, girl," and I thought it was hilarious because my whole mindset, I host a like sassy Bigfoot, but
Yeah.
then someone was like, "Oh no, I found this in a sea of Confederate flag decals. I'm pretty sure this is something racist."
Oh.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay, gotta take a step back there, unpack
Mhm.
it. Like, you have to accept that, like, you're gonna fuck up. It's like, the important thing is how you react to fucking up. It's
So
just
was it?
like, yeah, now that you mention it, I could see how this could be racist in some
But
contexts.
was it racist? I mean, was it like, did you find out or something? Like,
Someone pointed out it could have racist connotations. It wasn't like a hate symbol or anything, but
right.
like
It
they're
kind of
talking about.
sounds like in the context of the group it originated, that was
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Like if
insinuation.
it just been.
if it's in a group full of like Confederate flags, I'm going to assume the
Mhm.
worst until proven otherwise.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like, it's just kind of about like listening to people when they say that kind of stuff and processing it and being okay with being able to say, yeah, I fucked up, and this is what I'm
Mhm.
going to do about it from now on. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like cancel culture isn't that hard to figure out, is it?
I mean, a little bit yes, a little bit no. I think it goes to what you were saying about, it's the context, it's about, the culture the comedian's coming from a little bit. And, but I just want to say I love what you were saying as far as like accountability being a
Mm.
value and, your values being something that you can A, reflect in your stand up. Because, yeah, you shouldn't. I hear so many people that are like, I wouldn't want so and so to hear my stand up. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, I like to, even though like some of the stuff I say can be a little raunchy, overall I
Yeah.
stand by the jokes that I make. And I do try and let my comedy be at least a reflection of who I am at the time that I told the joke and try and
Mhm.
have accountability in that way. But also the idea of forgiving yourself for something, even if the other people aren't willing to. It kind of goes to not a comedy related thing, but maybe now I'm thinking it could be comedy related, but like management slash customer service question that I always try and ask when a situation is kind of like going haywire and you're not really sure what to do is asking the person, okay, I hear you. This is what I understand the problem to be. Does that match what you're saying as far as like the
Mhm.
lead up steps? And then the follow up being, okay, so at this point, is there anything I can do to make it right? And if the answer is yes, and those things are reasonable, then that's a direction to go towards like a constructive solution. But if the answer is no, it's like, well, all I can do is try and take this experience and learn from it and, try and avoid making the same mistake in the future. But at a certain point, if there's nothing you're going to be able to do to, salvage your relationship with that person at
Mhm.
that point, it's not going to do anybody good to keep putting effort into trying to fix it.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Awesome. Um, Now I want to ask you, how's biking?
Oh man.
This is actually on the list because you mentioned it in your blog a couple of
Yeah.
times. So I wanted to ask about biking. I know that you did some crazy miles in 2020, at least to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy for me because I have never been an athlete for sure, and I love riding a bike, and I used to ride a bike to college, and then when I lived in New York, in the city, I would ride my bike to work, which that's always like that was a thing. riding your bike in New York City, you know.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I bought a bicycle like in April, and then there was a bicycle shortage. So like I wanted to spend a certain amount, and that was it. And it was like on the like lower end of what bikes cost. And so I had my bike. So I got this is you guys are like this. So one thing they have in London, they call it like mambles or something. Yeah. So middle-aged men like in lycra, mammals. Yeah, middle-aged men in lycra. And so it's like the mammal mob. My one friend goes, "Oh, are you keeping up with the mammal mob?" And it was like the dudes who are just all lycra, you know, that are middle aged basically. And so, but yeah, I got my bike shorts and I just got on my bike every day. I rode for over 100 days straight, and I'd never done something like that before because like I said, I don't stick with like athletics too much. And now it's been a bit cold, so the coldest I've ridden in is like 34 degrees, and that was pretty cold for me.
Mhm.
And I got like the tights, and I wear them under my shorts. I mean, I end up looking like a clown almost, but um, you know, and then I rode and it was pretty hot, but I would ride, you know, 30 miles sometimes, but it was cool because there was no traffic. So you just had the London streets. It was really nice for a while,
Wow.
you know. But I rode quite a few places. I rode to Greenwich, which is like where the prime meridian is, you know, like
Hmm.
Greenwich Mean Time. And yeah, I just rode all over. It was really fun. And I live near Regent's Park, which is where the London City Zoo is. And so it's cool because when it was totally shut down, like his giraffes would just be outside, like by the street. And so I saw like my giraffes every day if I went at the right time, you know? It
That's
was so
awesome.
Yeah.
cool, but I just ride around Regents mostly. But Hyde Park, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's so cool to ride around this city. Yeah. So it's fun. So I haven't gotten the miles in this year. It's been very cold for me, and I've also been a bit lazy to be honest. But I can't wait until like March. I'm just gonna get back on and go.
Yeah, it
May I
sounds awesome.
ask if the bike, now that you've had some time to attune to it, does it have a name?
Oh, you know what? No,
All right,
no. I think I've upset
Rob,
it now.
listening to the show, since you are, I think, our only audience member, possibly at least commenter so far, name that bike in the
Name that
chat.
bike.
Oh
That
man,
doesn't mean you
well,
have to accept the name, but
okay.
this is a fun little game. Why not?
Name it
Yeah.
Francis after the villain from Pee Wee.
I used to bike to work when I worked closer to home, and
Mhm.
I hated every second of it. Um, I loved the money I was saving on my car,
Mhm.
and theoretically what I was doing for the environment, even though, like, who knows what, the people had to go through to mine the metals to make that bike. But overall, I was not a fan. My butt was always sore. But
Yeah. I mean, that's a
I'm glad
thing
you
for
had a
sure.
better experience with it. Especially, like, I feel like it's just for the first couple months. Like, theoretically, it's supposed to get better.
Well, yeah, and they have this like chafing butter they call it or whatever, like or like a I don't know. It almost feels like a pomade to me, but yeah, you find out like things that you need to do.
Yeah.
You
Gotta
know,
get it up in the creases.
yeah, you chafe. I mean, I'm not like a small. I don't have thigh gap, so you know, I'm a chafer. Yeah. So
I've always
so
thought about biking around Baltimore, but the two biggest obstacles here are that everyone, like, essentially, our roads are so fucked up that all traffic laws are essentially suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
And we are broke as a city, so depending on what neighborhood you're in, if it's not the rich people neighborhood, there are potholes the size of like glaciers that you will
uh
go through.
yeah.
And everyone I know who bikes on a regular basis through Baltimore City has at least one story about that time they got hit by a car.
Ha.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
So,
how
my
New York
god.
was.
yeah,
I hit a cab once. Like yeah, I mean I hit them, so it wasn't their fault. But yeah.
yeah,
Oh man. Um,
yeah.
all right. We don't have too much time left unless you're comfortable with going a little bit over, which if not, that's totally okay.
I'm okay with whatever. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I only have two questions kind of left, but as you can tell, my questions can sometimes be a bit packed. But I want to ask about your podcast. The remind me of the name. I think I'm worried I
Oh,
butchered it initially.
I don't think you did. It's More Than Work.
The More Than Work
Yeah,
podcast. I
More
want
Than
to
Work
know
podcast.
what inspired it. If you have a favorite guest, and
Yeah.
what's the biggest challenge you've encountered in producing your own podcast or your own stuff in general, since you have the blog and the website too. If you've had any
Yeah.
challenges.
Yeah, no, for sure I do. Yeah, so More Than Work podcast. I mean, I podcasted probably 15 years ago before it was a really a thing where you made money with it. I would interview bands. Me and my friends would interview music acts and bands. I mean, it was just cool, and I really loved it. And then just didn't do anything for about 10 years, and I wanted to make a podcast, and I had time to think about it during lockdown time. And so again, like just thinking back to purpose and stuff, the point of the podcast is to hopefully inspire people to find something outside of work, whether work is a career or whether work is like, people who are staying at home taking care of their families, whatever it is, and find something that um other than that defines them or helps define them, because I think I spent so much time in my career. I've been in IT or operations for e-commerce mostly, and now it's just other consulting for 20 years, and I got burnt out so many times because I was defined by my work, and my value and my self-worth was all invested in work. And that was it. 'Cause I don't have a I mean, I have family like my mom and sister and nephews, but not a a partner like a husband or kids or whatever. So um I was always defined by that. And so, like, as a project manager, for example, if a project went badly, or when I was a product manager, if my website didn't launch properly, I would be completely destroyed. I thought I was a piece of shit, and I wouldn't act nice to other people either. It was just bad. And then, I just started to I did the comedy. So I had to leave work. I had to. It was 5 o'clock. I had to go because I had to get to the club.
Mhm.
I had to
Yeah.
be there. And then I do volunteering and stuff. And I think I just kind of wanted that idea that your self-worth, and it says it's in my whatever, I say it on the site, I guess, but your self-worth is more than your job title. Or find a job that reflects your values. If you find one, like I've interviewed people who work for nonprofits and stuff, and it's pretty cool. But even those people need stuff outside of that.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm just interviewing all different people who do different jobs. Either they made a career change, or while they're doing their career, they're doing another thing, kind of like all of us are doing, basically, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, and so like a favorite guest. I mean, I had a bucket list sort of thing. Um, I I've loved every episode for different reasons. The one I'm really proud of still, I think, is there's an organization called To Write Love on Her Arms. And I don't know if you're familiar, but
Hmm.
it's like a suicide prevention,
Yeah.
self-harm prevention organization. And I had a lot of struggles. Well, I certainly still have some of it, but I had really pretty bad like depression and stuff when I was in my 20s. And I found that organization. I got the shirt, and it would, I'd wear it, and it just was like a symbol, like, okay, these people are there to help. And so I tried to interview the CEO, the founder. I didn't get that one. But the lady at their PR firm, what's your numbers? I said, I don't have any listeners. I mean, I just starting this podcast. And she said, I think I have someone for you. Just, do you mind if it's not Jamie, the founder? I said, sure. And this guy, Chad Moses, came on, and he was just amazing. And the weird thing with that episode, I had the worst day that day, like the worst. And I didn't even want to do it. Like, I just didn't. I was like, I can't. I had to, because I had this interview. And it was the best conversation. But it was almost like a reflection of how that whole day had been. And Rob, who's listening, I mean, he's one of my best friends. So, like, we have this relationship where we joke a lot. But, I mean, he's one of the only people who always know when I'm just having one of those days. But it's just really cool that I got to interview that guy, and I got to share that, because I feel like the more people that listen to that, they'll either be more compassionate to people with mental health issues, or they'll be more compassionate with themselves. And that's what I want. But I always want someone to walk away feeling inspired in some way, either to pick up the phone and call a friend if it's that kind of episode, or to call an organization and volunteer, or to go on stage and do comedy or whatever. So that's why I do the podcast. So I've got some cool guests coming
Oh,
up. So I'm super stoked.
That's such a good
Yeah.
answer.
I know,
Oh,
but I'm so long-winded. You can see, like,
no, that's fine. I'm just like, I'm getting a little teary because of like what you're saying is so inspiring, and then I'm also thinking about like what a shit person I am in
no,
comparison. You're talking about like the right level on her arms t-shirt, and I got my shitty little notebook.
that wasn't my t-shirt. That was a t-shirt I bought from
No,
them.
no, yeah, from them, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
well, I
We're
do
gonna
wear
yours
wear
as
it
in
shirts
you
on
too.
the
bought it.
mugs.
I was just like, and I am a
But you're
sarcastic
but
person
you're
with a notebook.
no, you've got a notebook. No, you know what? Someone's gonna write something in one of those notebooks though. That's gonna be
Yeah,
important to them.
it'll
You know,
be me. Um,
that's the thing. I've had
I'm
a
gonna
few
order
friends.
one.
Yeah, I might get one. I mean, I don't know about getting it to London. Maybe someone to rob, but like, I think one thing a few people have said when they listen to the podcast, they go, "Oh, I feel like I should have done more, or whatever." And
Mhm,
I actually said in one of the podcasts, like, that's not the point of it. The
mhm,
point isn't for you to feel like you should do more. The point is for you to do what you need to do and make the impact you can make. And so if your impact is saying hi to a neighbor that maybe has no contact with anyone else, but they know they're gonna see you and you're gonna wave to them, and that does it, then that's your impact. So that's huge.
mm,
That's everything to that person. Or if your impact's your Oprah and you're giving cars to everybody,
mhm.
but we all have our impact we make, and I think that's what I want people to know. And you guys have your impact. I mean, if someone's gonna listen to your podcast and be like stoked about it, and that's or you do a performance and they think it's funny and they're happy. I mean, we all of us just do what we can, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's definitely the hope, and I think that it's also something where we talk about like having any impact, being the value. And even if it's just for yourself, like again, talking
Mhm.
about like this show and like the other district comedy shows, there's an element of it where even if nobody watches, at least the people in the room, I feel like, are having a good time or getting something out of it or having a creative outlet or some kind of escape from their daily life. But there is like a little bit of I don't want to say expectation, but sometimes people do kind of like get the idea that if they're not getting these huge numbers with like
Mhm.
engagement or viewers or something,
Or
um,
making money.
or making money,
Mhm.
that
Yeah, money.
they're that what they're doing isn't then good or valuable or whatever. And I totally agree with you that that's just not the case. And like whether or not you know your show or your product or your whatever is getting a lot of eyes on it or getting, you know, recognition over like a wide spectrum is not indicative or a measure of its value or its quality.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree completely.
I don't know. That's what I gleaned from what you said. I think
Yeah.
we're overall on the same page.
Yeah, I think so. No, I 100%.
Yay, awesome. I can't wait to schedule my interview on your podcast. Next up,
Yeah.
what? Um, but this is the last question. We,
Okay.
like the first question, we ask all of our guests this one. But what's up next for you? And this is both stuff that's coming up that we can check out or stuff that you want to plug. But we're
Mhm.
also interested in, you know, like in your dream of dreams,
Mhm.
where would you go, like long term goals wise, with the whole comedy stuff?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I have a gig tomorrow, like around this time, so I'm glad I'm doing okay at this time of day. On like Sketchy Women, it's a show I was looking forward to, but I think I'm just gonna look forward to getting some gigs like live when they happen, and eventually I'll move back home, and just want to make sure I keep doing it. I do want to write a show, and I haven't said. I'm saying it now. I don't think I've even really said it to anyone, but yeah, I want to write a show. Um, about just some of my experiences and even some of the stuff we've been talking about. And I'd like to go to Edinburgh. I mean, that's what I'd
Mm.
really like to do.
Yeah.
So it's like this thing, especially while I'm living over here. So that's like a goal within the next 2 years.
And
So
you're
I
referring
can't.
to the Fringe Festival, correct?
Yeah, the Fringe
Mm-hmm.
Festival. Yeah, I have a friend who did a play there before, and I'd really like to do something there. But also, I just want to like I don't know, do something with it. Maybe go the route of like corporate or college or events or something like that. But yeah, I want to keep going with comedy, even if it's just for me. Ultimately, keep writing. I'm in a writing group right now that's pretty cool, and I just want to start being more open to that. I was always like, not always. I mean, I haven't been doing comedy forever, but just in my career, even I've always been very like, oh, I'm the only like I can do it myself, and I've learned over time that's not true, and so I just want to keep, yeah, collaborating, working with people, and meeting people like you guys, and yeah, it's
Yay.
yeah,
Well,
Awesome.
I really loved meeting you.
yeah.
Cool,
I
cool.
love meeting you guys too. It's fun.
I feel like I just got like a personal TED talk, which I was not
Thank you.
expecting, but like I'll take it. That's that's fucking awesome, man. But unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for tonight. I want to thank you so much for being an incredible guest on the show, for hanging out with us. You can follow her on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Rabiah Comedy. It's on the background for spelling stuff, so you can check that out. I know I said it wrong again. And the
No,
at.
you didn't.
Oh!
You said it right that time.
Yay! But anyway, so there you can check her out, as well as the at More Than Work Pod. Check that out. It sounds awesome. I'm going to probably go download a couple episodes now. Thank you, Roz, for being a great co host, as always, and a big thank you to our audience. Rob, for for watching the program. If you enjoyed the stream, please consider making a donation or following us on social media. You can find the links to those in our episode description. Tune in next week as we interview TB&J regular Ed Smith. And yeah, that's it.